The Rafah crossing is set to open in the next few days in order to let Palestinian residents into Egypt, though not to allow aid deliveries. That the Israeli military says that the arrangement is in accordance with the October ceasefire deal with Hamas. The move would be coordinated with Egypt under the supervision of the European Union mission, similar to a mechanism that operated in January 2025. There's no detail yet on whether exiting Palestinians, will be able to return. Israel doesn't want the crossing to allow aid deliveries, which mainly arrive in Gaza via the Kerem Shalom crossing. And we are joined now by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, Badr Abdelatty. He's joining us from Berlin. Welcome, and thank you for joining us, first of all. And I'd like to begin with the situation along your border with Gaza in Rafah, because we are just hearing some reports that the crossing will open in one direction, exit only, in the coming days. Can you confirm that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for hosting me. We are working with the Israeli side with regard to the operation of the Rafah crossing from the Gaza side, because as you know, the Rafah crossing is operating 24/7 from the Egyptian side. So we are in final discussions with the Israeli side with regard to the operation of the crossing from Gaza side. We are fully committed, of course, to allow the flow of all humanitarian and medical assistance into Gaza and of course, to alleviate the burden of the people there.
Based on those conversations, do you think the opening is going to happen now in the next days?
We hope so.
You hope so. Okay. Let's talk about your concerns as well as your hopes, because you have previously been concerned about forced displacement of Gazans amid the Israel-Hamas war. Where do those concerns stand right now, that there's the prospect of the border opening?
Well, first of all, we are fully committed to make the Trump peace plan a successful one to be implemented on the ground. We are finished with the implementation of the first phase, and now we have to focus on the second phase. And of course, the operation of the Rafah crossing is vital, is very important. And we need to have more accessibility of humanitarian and medical aid into Gaza. Also, there are many cases, medical cases in Gaza. They need medical intervention. So we are pretty ready to work and to elevate the burden of the people in Gaza, of course.
And we're going to talk about Trump's peace plan and your role as a broker and a mediator and all of that. But first, just one more quick question about the situation at the Rafah crossing, because Israel is saying that Hamas fighters are holed up in southern Gaza's tunnels beneath areas controlled by the Israeli military. Hamas has now just called on mediating countries to pressure Israel to allow them safe passage. You're a mediating party. Are you going to do that?
Well, we are in full cooperation and consultations with the United States, because the American role is extremely important, and the engagement of President Trump and the American administration is vital for the implementation of the Trump peace plan, as well as for the upholding of the existing ceasefire. So, as I mentioned, we have discussions on the military, security, intelligence level with the Israeli side.
I just want to bring it back to the question. Sorry, Mr. Foreign Minister. It's just a very simple question. Do you think that Hamas members will be given safe passage by Israel out of those tunnels that Israel claims they are in Rafah? And are you, as a mediating partner, applying that pressure right now?
As I mentioned, we are working with the Israelis and we are working with the Americans in order to solve this issue and other issues related to the decommissioning of Hamas. So it's ongoing discussions, and we are working with the Israeli side, as I mentioned, as well as with the Americans in order to find a solution to those different questions and problems.
Okay. I promised that we would talk about the peace plan and also about the reason why you are here in Berlin today. You have discussed plans for the reconstruction of Gaza with your German counterpart. How should plans for reconstruction begin when the ceasefire remains fragile? Who are you going to convince to invest in Gaza?
Well, first of all, we have, as you correctly mentioned, to make the ceasefire uphold, and this is very important, very vital, and this is the most pressing issue, and that's why we are in daily contacts with the American side as well as with the Israeli side, and also with Hamas and the different Palestinian factions, because as you correctly mentioned, without having a solid ceasefire on the ground, we cannot talk about other issues of importance. So we have to start right now the implementation of the second phase. We have also to move forward with the implementation of the Security Council Resolution 2803. This is very important, and we have to move forward. As for the early recovery and the reconstruction conference of Gaza, this is very important as well to give hope for people to in Gaza to build on the existing momentum resulted from the having the ceasefire and having the Sharm el-Sheikh summit meeting last October. So we have no luxury to wait. We have to move parallel in different tracks at the same time, because time is pressing and people are suffering in Gaza. Winter is already there, and the weather is very harsh in Gaza, and no shelters, nothing there. So we have to address the early recovery projects, and that will prepare for the reconstruction of Gaza. Germany is a partner, and it's a very important country, and they will be a co-conveners, and we are working with the Americans for the co-chairmanship of the conference, and to have the date and the timing for the conference, and we are pushing very hard in that direction.
And that's a conference on reconstruction, just to remind our viewers. I'd like to, you mentioned the humanitarian situation. I'd also like to ask you about the security situation, because, I mean, you have the inside track here. We've seen you, Qatar, the United States brokering a lot of the negotiations to end the Israel-Hamas war in all stages of this, the release of the hostages, the ceasefire talks, and now also through this framework of Trump's 20-point peace plan, which you mentioned got the green light also from the Security Council recently. You have made this commitment to train a Palestinian police force in Sinai for Gaza deployment. And Trump's peace plan is also calling for an international stabilization force to be this long-term international security solution. They say that they will consult with you in the development of this force, which is why I'd like to ask you, do you really see this coming about? Because so few have wanted to play the role of peacekeeper on the ground in Gaza. How do you see security happening going forward?
Yes, yeah. Well, it's coming, it's happening, of course, and we should be very serious on that, because the issue of governance is very important. The issue of security is very important as well. And when it comes to security, we have to talk about two levels. First level is the Palestinian level, the local policemen, and we have already, as we speak, around 5,000 policemen in Gaza. They are, I mean, they've been there, they are taking their salaries, and they need just to be deployed, to be empowered in order to take care of the law enforcement in Gaza. Parallel to that, as you correctly mentioned, we are working very hard for providing training for Palestinian young men in Egypt in order to prepare them to take over also to security arrangement in Gaza, and to complement the other 5,000 already there in Gaza to fill the vacuum and to take care of the daily life of the people in Gaza. The second level, as you correctly mentioned, is the ISF, the International Stabilization Force. And this is very, very important because they will be mandated with the monitoring of the ceasefire to make sure that the two parties are honoring their commitments according to the ceasefire without violation, and also to take care of the external border and the security of the border, and also the operation of the crossings. This is very important, and some countries expressed their readiness to participate. And we are now working with the Americans for the, identifying the mission and the mandate, as well as the formulation of these forces.
Yeah, but one does have to say, I mean, countries have not been running to sign up for this. So there is some skepticism out there about whether or not it is indeed realistic and feasible. Another thing that also is a big barrier is that one of the conditions for Israeli withdrawal from Gaza in the peace deal is that Hamas give up its weapons. Of course, their public line has been absolutely not. You're brokering with them. Do you see any circumstances under which they would agree to that?
Well, again, we have to work on different parallel tracks. And as you correctly mentioned, for the second phase, we have issues related to decommissioning as well as redeployment and withdrawal of the Israeli forces from Gaza. So there are commitments for the two parties, and we have to work very, very hard in order to implement what was agreed upon in the Trump peace plan, as well as in the Security Council resolution. And we believe that we can do that, and the international community, the United States, this is the main guarantee. Yeah.
If they don't agree, is the deal dead?
Well, we are working on the assumption that the two parties accepted the Trump peace plan, and that's why we are working with the assumption that they are both on board, and we have to move forward for the implementation, and we have different creative ideas with regard to dealing with the issue of the weapons and the decommissioning.
Different creative ideas.
And we have, as you know, some success. Yeah, we have some successful stories, like in Northern Ireland, and that could be, dealt with. Lessons can be drawn from the previous similar cases, like as I mentioned in Ireland. So I believe that we can learn from those lessons, and we can implement it on the ground in Gaza.
I'd like to ask you a little bit more about the impact of Arab countries on the architecture of Gaza's future, because Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza calls for the territory to, first of all, be governed by a technocratic Palestinian committee, but that's going to be overseen by a so-called Board of Peace, which would then be chaired by Trump and other members, including former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. Do you have guarantees that there will be an Arab presence on that board? Do you need those guarantees? Are you concerned about potential foreign influence?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned before, we are working with the Americans on that. We are waiting for answering different questions with regard to the formulation of the Board of Peace, who will be invited and what will be the mandate. So there is ongoing discussions with the American side on that. And as I mentioned, the main guarantee for the implementation of the Trump peace plan is the direct involvement of His Excellency President Trump himself, as well as the American administration. So parallel to that, we have to formulate the technocratic administrative Palestinian committee. This is very, very important in order to take care of the daily life of the people and to run to provide the basic services to the people in Gaza. We have prepared a list of candidates, all technocrats, all doctors and engineers, all from Gaza, and we are now in debate, in the dialogue with the Israeli side, with the American side, in order to approve the names and then to deploy them to take care of the daily life of people, including providing basic services like healthcare, like water, electricity, and so on, and to prepare for the implementation of the early recovery and the reconstruction of Gaza, bearing in mind that all those entities like Board of Peace, like the ISF, like the Administrative Palestinian Committee, they are all transitional bodies according to the Security Council resolution, and their mandate will be ended by the end of December 2027.
So I'd like to ask you, just briefly before we go, a little bit more about the state of regional diplomacy right now and where you have seen it come amid the Israel-Hamas war. We mentioned a little bit earlier that you, along with Qatar, that you have really been in all levels of negotiations between Israel and Hamas throughout the war. Through that lens, how do you rate the level of Arab cooperation right now? Do you think that there is a change or a deeper level of cooperation and determination by Arab states since the onset of the war?
Yes. Yes, of course. We have very, very close cooperation, coordination among Arab countries in order to move forward with regard to promoting peaceful and political solutions. Everybody is now on board. Everybody is convinced that there is no military solution to those different conflicts. One important development happened last September when the Arab Ministerial Council, they approved a certain resolution which is talking about general principles which should guide the regional security regime in the Middle East. And this is something very important. And it was based on a co-draft resolution presented by Egypt and Saudi Arabia, two main pillar countries in the Arab world. So according to this resolution approved by the foreign ministers of Arab states last September, you know, we set specific principles which should guide the security regional regime in the Middle East for the future, especially principles such as respect of territorial integrity, respect of sovereignty, not use of force in settling down the crisis and the conflict, as well as, of course, the universality of the principle of non-proliferation. So those are principles approved by the Arabs, and we are open to talk, to have other regional partners outside the Arab world to join, like any regional country in the region. They are welcome to work with us, but based on respecting those certain principles approved by the Arab ministers.
Badr Abdelatty, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there, but we thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for hosting me.